Rebel Wilson, welcome to Call Her Daddy.
Hi, Alex. Hi, it's great to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I'm obsessed with your outfit.
Oh, thanks. Well, it's actually my girlfriend designed it.
It's so good. It's so cozy.
And it's just so cozy. They're the best to like lounge in, and that's what we're doing now. So.
Guys, the one day that I'm not wearing a fucking hoodie and sweatpants because I wanted to look professional for Rebel, and she shows up in my exact uniform that I'm usually in. I love it. You are one of the funniest actresses of our time. I'm obsessed with you. You're so talented.
This is great for my self-esteem already.
You're also a new mom to baby Royce.
Yeah.
The name is amazing. How did you pick this name?
I wanted something that started with R, and I wanted something that I didn't think anybody else had. And then I came up with Royce. I don't know, maybe I saw a Rolls Royce or something. There's some store here in West Hollywood called something like Royce Interiors or something as well. And I saw it a few times and I was like, yeah, Royce. Like, that could be cool. I don't know of anybody else who's called their baby that. And so I was like, we have like quite unique names in my family. Like my niece is called Sovereign. And so I was just like, oh, yeah, Royce sounds like good. And then I told my family and they're like, no, that's a shit name. Like, and my mum sends me like a list of 50 other names starting with R, like Raven or other thing. And I'm like, no, for some reason I just like Royce, so that's going to be
I love
name.
Royce.
But we call her Little Roycey, which is cute.
Are you going to get her a Rolls Royce?
Oh, maybe.
Oh my God, can you imagine? That would be amazing. Your birth name is actually Melanie.
Yes, so at school, like primary school and high school, people knew me as Mel, really. Yeah.
Wait, and so when and why did you decide to start going by Rebel?
So Rebel was always my name. I was named after a little girl called Rebel who sang at my parents' wedding. She's like a little 6-year-old little angel, and my mum loved her. And because my mum was a school teacher, so she was in my mum's class. And so I was named after her. And then my father said, there's no way we're putting that on the birth certificate because I'm going to go to a Christian school. So they're like, they won't accept her if her name's Rebel on the birth certificate and whatever. So I grew up like knowing my name was Rebel, but on my birth certificate was Melanie Elizabeth. But as soon as I was an adult, I was like, well, now I'm going by Rebel. Like, and it kind of worked out. Like, it obviously wasn't that I wanted a stage name or anything, but it was like, oh, that's my name, and that's what I'll start using as an adult. And it just, I don't know, yeah. But it's weird. Some people, only people that have known me since childhood would call me Mel sometimes, and it freaks me out now.
But it is kind of cool. You have like an alter ego.
Yeah, kind of like a Sasha Fierce situation. But like, but I don't know. But it's not like my personality changed or anything. It was just that I officially changed all the documents over to Rebel, and then it kind of worked out because I was only a law student at that time. So it worked out that I became an actress and have a cool name.
So you grew up in Sydney, Australia. What was your social life in high school like?
Okay, so I started high school. We start in like when you're like 12 years old. Our high school, it's a little bit different. We don't have middle school like here in America. And for some reason I was in the cool group. So I start my new high school and I get in the cool group and I was like, oh my God, like how did I even do this? And then like the girls say, we're going to go smoke behind the gym. So are you coming or what? And I'm like, oh, I don't smoke because I didn't know what else to say. I didn't smoke. And so they kicked me out of the group. And then all the other little groups, I went to an all-girls school and all the other groups had formed. So, and like literally like they'll sit in a little circle in a quadrangle and, you know, a bit like Gossip Girl or whatever. But all the other groups, there was no room in the circles. They'd already made their own little circles. So everyone had a group except for me. And so I had to, my first year of high school, every day I went to the library, had my lunch just by myself because all the other groups had formed and I had no group now. And I mean, but for 3 days I was living it up in the cool group. Being like, oh, they're like, how did she get in the cool group? Whatever. And I was just like, but then I get kicked out and had 0 friends for the whole year. And then luckily the next year of high school, these other girls go, oh, meet us at the language labs but at lunch. And I'm like, what, are they going to try to beat me up or something? I was like so scared. And then I come and then they had all these candies and stuff and they're like, surprise. And it was my birthday. And I was like, how the hell they know that? And then they'd thrown me a surprise birthday party lunch as a way to say we would like you in our group. And then that's how I got my first group of friends at high school.
What?
The group thing was like the cliques, like in Mean Girls and stuff. Like it was very much.
Also, that's
a
so
thing.
much like a movie. The fact that you were like, because I didn't smoke,
Yeah.
I was out in 3 days.
I was out and like ostracized and like had no friends, and yeah, it was terrible. But then in high school, like then I slowly started coming out of my shell more. I was pretty shy at the start of high school, and then started coming out of my shell and forcing myself to do stuff like public speaking and debating, and then I became weirdly the most popular girl at the school. So I went from, I know what it's like to be so unpopular that you literally have no friends and just
Right.
are like so depressed, and to being like the most popular. And my sweet 16th birthday party had a busload of gate crashers from a whole other school that like just heard the party was going to be super cool and like come. It was like the police had to come like 4 times. It was like one of those parties you see in movies.
Yes.
It's like turns into a total nightmare. Like for me it was, because I thought the house was going to get burnt down or some shit. And then, but my 16th was just like the most popular thing. So I know what it's like to be on both sides of the fence of popularity.
I can heavily relate to that because like when my freshman year, I had like cystic acne to the point where I would
You
like...
did? But your skin's so,
my God.
so perfect now.
Oh, well, thank you. And the only reason I ever accept a compliment for my skin is because I was like, I've been through like 4 fucking rounds of Accutane, but I remember the first year I was like, I am like going through it. I don't even want to be friends with myself because of how bad I look. Like, holy fuck. And then by junior year, I was like, I am like thriving, Miss Popular. Like, so I felt the difference between lifestyles.
Yeah, and I know what it's like. I really know what it's like to have 0 friends, and then I know what it's like to be the most popular. And you have different problems depending on what's like. But I had like this snaggle tooth, and then I had this chain. My mum was like, I had a tooth up in the roof of my mouth. Like, that's probably a great visual. And then anyway, my mum decides she's going to get in hospital, and they're going to put a chain up on the tooth to drag the chain to the tooth slowly to position. So I'm like got this chain inside my mouth. I'm like the dorkiest girl at the start of high school. I know. What? They could have just removed the tooth.
You just had a little chain.
Yeah, and a little chain would just slowly drag it down and pull on my face.
Why do I feel like now that's trendy?
Teeth, yeah.
Oh, it looks great.
Yeah,
I
have
phenomenal
good teeth now. Yeah.
Oh, you're like, yeah, I know now. Now I feel like that would be like a TikTok trend where like kids have like chains on their fucking teeth. Back in the day, you're like getting bullied for it.
Yeah, but it was like, it was painful. Like imagine a tooth being dragged all the way.
I can't.
Slowly over 18-month period, and then but.
How was your dating life in high school?
Okay, so I had one high school boyfriend. I hope people don't listen to this in Australia. I had one little high school boyfriend called Peter. Hi, Peter, if you're listening. And he went to the boys' school next door. And so how we met the boys was that we did theatre productions, and that was our only interaction with the boys. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to audition and going to be in the shows. And he was the stage manager at the boys' school. And then so he was my first little boyfriend, and then what happened is I went on a family holiday to Disneyland, and then he kissed one of my friends at a party. So I was like,
Peter.
God damn it, it's over with. Although I feel like I dumped him, but I looked back at my diaries recently, and apparently he kind of just said he wanted to be friends with me and showed me that by kissing one of my other friends. But it was such a big deal at the time because by that point I was very popular, and so all the girls had to come to me on the first day of school when I got back from school holidays and say, oh, Peter kissed Leanna. And I was just like, oh, that's it then, he's dumped. And like I tried to be tough, but I was like really upset by it. And then I think I wrote him a handwritten letter.
Classic.
Just to, because this was before cell phones or anything.
Of course.
And then it was just over with. And then I was like, that's it, boys are trouble. Like I'm never going to date again. I'm just gonna have a career, and I always knew like I wanted to have a great career, and I wanted to live overseas and do all this stuff with my life. And I was like, yeah, boys are a distraction, like fuck them, and I'm not and because it wasn't a great first experience. But weirdly, like I never was upset with my friend that had kissed him.
Oh, that was your direct friend?
Yeah, she was in my group.
What did she have to say for herself?
Well, she was very apologetic, said it just happened. But because she told me the full story and he didn't, I was always supportive of her, and she was a good friend. I don't know how.
Yeah. Well, are you guys
I should have maybe been a little bit angry with her.
But it was all
I actually weirdly just got her tickets to Disneyland when she came.
What?
With her husband, yeah. Just recently, so.
Wait,
yeah.
that's amazing. You're so close
No,
with like
she was a great girl. I don't know how. I blame him.
I blame him too. Fuck you, Peter.
Fuck you.
Yeah. Do you have?
I'm over it though.
Yeah, we're done. Like, it's totally fine. Like, we weren't just reading the diary entries like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
We're over it. Did you have any childhood or teenage experiences that heavily impacted the way that you feel around the idea of, like, falling in love?
Oh, God. Probably the biggest ones was, well, my parents got separated when I was 16. And that was, like, awful. Like, just awful. Just, like, parents fighting, having to lose the house and move out, and my mum was a single mum with 4 kids, and so at that point, so I was like, my idea of marriage, it's like not like I never saw any good marriages or happy people in relationships, so I think and then my mum was like, yeah, go out into the world and have a career. So, like, don't be like me. She had me at 24, and she was like, just get out there. So I basically put, like, blinders, like horse blinders on myself, and was like, okay, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to have a career. I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to make money. And I was like, no love, no relationships, because it'll only bring me pain. And I know now that that's not true, but as a teenager, witnessing like what happened to my parents, I was like, oh, I don't want that.
So you feel like you kind of stayed to yourself for quite some time.
Yeah.
And you didn't have any urge to date.
No, so what happened is in my 20s, I never dated anybody. Not one single person. Not like people were lining up, trust me. Like they weren't. They weren't like, I don't know, still a bit feral. So I literally went on not one date. It was only really when I became a successful Hollywood actress that I started kind of softening. And but before that it was kind of like, I guess, like Olympic athletes, how they have this focus, because to make it in the entertainment industry is really hard, especially when you're like no one from Australia and you come over here. And so I just had to have like these blinders on, and was like, I thought that if I was in a relationship or something, it just wouldn't help me as a person to have a career.
Now looking back in hindsight, what advice would you give yourself in your 20s?
Well, the weird thing is it worked, like, but I was very lonely, and again, I look at my diaries and I'm like, oh yes, if only I could have love. All these sad things I write in my bloody diary. I found them the other day, that's why I was like, looking at them, and I was like, holy shit, like, I was such a loser. But it's just like, but then the thing is, it worked. Like, I mean, I had to be very focused on my career to make it. The odds of making it's so small, and it really did work. And maybe if I'd found the love of my life at 25, maybe I wouldn't have ever come to Hollywood, and I would never have made it in that big a way. So it kind of worked, but I sacrificed, and I didn't have really any social life or love life.
Back then, what insecurities did you have within yourself if you were going to try to date?
I'm like someone who's so like a body positive person, but I think at the same time you can be so confident, but you can also have like, I don't know, like not confidence. That's a terrible way of explaining it. But so like I had a thing called PCOS. So when I was in college, I rapidly gained like, how many kilos? Like almost 50 kilos, like say 100 pounds. And I rapidly gained it. And then I was playing kind of like the fat, funny friend as an actress. I was like never the love interest or never like, and so I just kind of thought in my real life that I was a great friend to people, and like if I'd meet guys or whatever, I'd be like they'd think I was hilarious and like want to hang out as a friend. But I did always, I think that, oh well, they'd never romantically like me because I was so overweight, which is totally the wrong way to think about it. I just wasn't loving myself. But I think it's hard to explain sometimes because I can be so body positive and confident in some ways, but the one way where I wasn't was in my love life. I don't know, I was just like, people say there's a thing called chubby chasers or whatever, and like I never experienced anything like that being a bigger girl. I only experienced where people were like, they just want to be my friend, and
got it.
After, I'd think I'd going on a date, and then it was like, oh no, I just wanted to hang out because you're fun and cool. But yeah,
when I think about like Pitch Perfect, in the movie, your character calls herself Fat Amy, and you're like, I'm gonna reclaim this name. Like if I say it, no one else can. Did someone write that for you, or did you come up with it?
So, well, weirdly, I'd played a character called Fat Mandy in Australia on a sketch show, where that character goes to fat camp essentially, and he's like, oh, I thought this was about celebrating fatness. I didn't know this camp was to lose weight. Like, how shit is that? And so it was a real like body positive thing. And then I got sent the script by Kay Cannon. God, back in the day over Facebook, and she sends me this script and goes, I hope you're not offended, but the character's called Fat Amy. And I looked at the script and I'm like, oh, what's she talking about? And then I read it and I was like, no, Fat Amy I think is like the best character in the whole movie. Like, of course I'd love to play it. And it really didn't offend, I guess, it's not. It was like, to me, that was kind of distinctive about the character, and I love playing her like so much. And like, we had the best fun on Pitch Perfect movies, and to me, like, it was just awesome to play her because she's just so confident and ballsy, and I have like, part of it is me. Like a lot of the Pitch Perfect's not really acting; it's just kind of just like us hanging out. But then there was another part of me who wasn't confident and definitely wasn't confident around guys and was like, oh God.
Did you struggle with then your career of people like wanting to be like, you're this character and you're like, hey, like I want to also work on myself, or whatever it was?
Yeah, it kind of, I mean, I did wait until Pitch Perfect seemed like it was over. I couldn't lose a massive amount of weight because I was in the contracts for that movie. You can't lose, I think it's not more than 10 pounds or gain more than 10 pounds. Yeah, wow. You have to kind of stay at the weight. It's like in your contract. But I'd been thinking for a while, like, I wanted to get healthier. And I was stereotyped in playing that fat, funny friend, which is so hard because I love those roles. Like, I mean, I love doing the roles. I love those characters. But then I did want to do more things, but I felt like being the bigger girl, you're just more pigeonholed. And then as I was approaching 40, I was like, oh, well, and it came down to like a fertility thing. I went to see a fertility doctor, and he was like, well, you'd have a much better chance with fertility if you were healthier. And I was like, oh God, what's he talking about? Because like my life was like a Lizzo song where I'm like, bad bitch o'clock, all that stuff. Like that was my life. And then I've got this stranger saying, yeah, but you're not healthy. Look at you. And then it really hit me hard because I was living a fantastic bigger life and then didn't have any serious diseases or anything, and I was like, oh shit. And then that made me kind of re-examine. I was like, well, yeah, if I think about it, I'm doing things that aren't healthy, and because I didn't have a great love life, so I was normally like at home at nights, just eating ice cream and eating chocolate or whatever, and which was comforting at the time, but it wasn't like a great move overall. And so I just like slowly, as I was turning 40, then became healthier.
So when was your first like real adult relationship, and how did you find yourself like meeting this person, and what was the vibe?
I think I'm a pretty late bloomer when it comes to love, and that's why like I try to tell young women out there, like, don't stress about it, because you can be fine and have great sex and everything. Like, it just might come later. And that's all right. Like, you don't need to be stressed out about it. But I think my first real relationship was 35, which is really quite late. I mean, not in New York standards, where the average age of marriage is like 40, but I was 35, and basically one of my other Bellas, Hannah May Lee, had set me up with this guy. Pitch Perfect 2 had just come out, and I was just like, and he was just so confident and lovely, and that was my first like serious relationship where, like, you know, he met my family and all that stuff, and it looked very serious at the time. And then so it was but that's late. I know a lot of people would say, like, well, I don't know, 17, 18.
If you're stressed listening to this being like, I haven't found the person for me, like, you're a testament to, like, don't stress out.
Yeah, if you're like early 20s, I think you should just be like working on your skills.
Yes.
Like working on your business and just like not even worrying about it really, because it will come.
I did read that you decided to say yes to every single date that you were asked on for a year.
So basically, because I knew, like, I was not very experienced in dating, I didn't date at all in my 20s. So I think it was 2019, and I called it the year of love. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to get on a dating app. I'm going to, like, anyone who asks me out, I'm going to, like, have to say yes. Doesn't matter who they are. Nobody, it's not like I advertise this, so the people in prisons would be, like, writing to me. I told my friends, and then I was like, okay, it's whoever, and Carly, like, we went to Aspen to kickstart it, right? So the first day, January 1st, 4 dates, like, back to back. And we were like, the concierge is probably like, what the hell is going on in that hotel room in Aspen? It's 4 dudes she's with. And I was like, that's how I roll. So we started off strong. And I actually went on probably dated about 50 people in that 1 year, because I felt like I needed, and it was true intentions, like I wanted to find love. It's not like I was trying to use people or anything. I was trying to find love, and I was trying to make up for lost time and just go out on these dates. So I got very good at going on dates, and you have some funny stories, like people like, because sometimes on the dating apps you never know with people, but you've got to give it a go and try.
Totally. Wait, okay, that is fucking iconic, because what is that Jim Carrey movie where he literally just, it's like yes man, he says yes to everything? Like I'm picturing you being like so exhausted, someone asks you on a date, you're like, here we go again. Here we go again.
Okay, what time, what restaurant? Okay, because it's so much effort dating.
You gotta look good,
you gotta get a blowout, like, and you know, and then because sometimes, you know, you go on the date and then you can tell within the first minute, like, this is not a thing. But I'm such a polite person, I'm going to sit through the whole dinner for like 2 hours and be like, tell me more about your cat or something, like, and I just like, because you're polite and they've put in the effort to come, and you're like, and then you just go home sad because
sometimes it makes it worse, right? You're like, oh my god, I've never felt more alone, because I feel so disconnected from that man and his cat. Like, it just can't be me. I'd just rather be alone. I'm assuming there were some wild ones.
Well, okay, there was one guy who apparently worked for some space program or something, because he'll know who he is, and he was like, brought a rose and said, would you mind, like, putting this rose in your mouth like this, and I'll dip you, and would take a photo. I was like, what? Sure. Like, and then, like, never heard from him again. And I was like, did he just go on the date because he wanted to take a photo of dipping me kind of with a rose in my mouth? It was so weird.
Did the photo ever resurface?
Oh, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't know what he did with the photo.
I think I know what he did with the photo.
Really?
Well, every night.
I don't know.
He's
But then he never contacted me ever again, and I thought we had a nice lunch.
It's like a weird fetish.
Yeah, but weirdly, like, okay, you got to be safe when you're meeting randoms from the internet. So I was lucky I was never in a sketchy situation, because I, like, always met it in, like, I would never go around to somebody's house or whatever, like, no way.
Totally.
But I was trying to think, well, one where, like, you think the guy's normal height, and then I met him and he was quite small and it just would have looked weird. Like it would have, you know.
It wasn't for you.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't for me. And
That's
so
fair.
I was just like, but I tried for the 2 hours to have a nice conversation with him. And then, but I just, you know, and then you just feel like you've wasted a whole night, a whole Saturday night. And you're like, oh gosh.
That's what I feel like most people, when they're on the apps and when they're trying to get out into the dating world, it's like, how did you keep the mentality of like to go on to the
Well,
another
I just felt
one?
like this is 1 year.
Yep.
You know, and I've got to put in the effort, and it's like a numbers game at times, and you got to put yourself out there and get used to putting yourself out there. And even though it's hard, like it's annoyingly hard, I was like, oh God, it's much easier to stay at home on the couch and
So much easier.
just eat takeaway. But I was like, nah, okay, I'm doing it for this year and I'm focused on it. And I did meet some awesome people.
Do you remember what like the best date was where you were like, okay, that was like fucking normal, like thank God?
I'm trying to think. There's this lovely guy called Chris who I dated from Raya, the dating app, and he was in the music industry, but was just like a really nice guy, loving guy, and and then just how he kissed me after the first date, and I was just like, like it was so nice.
Refreshing.
Yeah, it was so nice, and he was just a gentleman, and like, and so that, and then I did end up dating him for a few months. Yeah.
You know what's funny though? I remember going on a series of dates and always wondering though, like, do I really like him, or did he just come right after a really bad one?
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, oh, he's doing bare minimum. He like opened the door, and like I'm like, this is right. This is a good vibe.
Well, from all that experience, you kind of learned what you like and what you don't like, and that was something I didn't have from going to an all-girls school and then not dating.
What did you learn that you liked?
I mean, well, like that thing about the bare minimum, I've seen a lot of girls put up with the bare minimum and settle for dudes that are not like quite giving them a lot, like it's not a fair deal, in a way, and so then there was this one guy, and then I don't know, I took him to like a LA Rams game and like some nice dates.
Oh my God.
But then I noticed he's not setting up any of the dates. It's like me inviting him to stuff all the time. And I was like, you know what, I don't like that. He's not putting in the effort. That's it. And then I dumped him, and then he was quite shocked. Quite a good-looking guy, and then I was like, "Well, you didn't put in the effort, and if you're not, but I would never have known that
Had you not,
had I not gone on all these dates and seen how people treat you and seen what I liked and didn't like."
When you look back, what do you feel like you like really learned about yourself throughout that time?
Even though I called it Year of Love, and it was really about me finding like my self-worth through it. Even though I thought it was about finding a husband at that time, I was like, oh, okay, this is what it's about. It wasn't really about that. It was really about self-worth and knowing that I was lovable and finding that out. And I know I was like a big successful movie star, but you still struggle with like, oh, well, maybe I just meant to be people's friends all my life, or never supposed to find that one person and that connection that's amazing.
Did you ever struggle with that, of wondering if the person was like in it for the wrong reasons, of like they're with me because I'm famous or I'm funny?
Yeah, once I became like pretty internationally famous from Pitch Perfect, really, when I was 32, like I did then start to, you do for a hot second go, but then I had the opposite of a guy who came to a premiere and had a panic attack because of the kind of attention, and I had the opposite, so where the fame was a hindrance to him wanting to date me. So, but the majority of the time you find dudes would kind of like it.
Right. The guy with the panic attack, you're like, wait, I love you. Let's keep you around.
Yeah, I wanted to date him more after that.
You're like, that is the sexiest panic attack I've ever seen on someone.
Oh, he was so cute, but it wasn't meant to be.
What is the hardest breakup that you've ever been through, and how did you come out of it?
Do you know what's weird? I'm the one that breaks up with people. I've not been
broken up.
No, I've not been like, apart from that high school thing, which was a bit grey area.
Peter.
Yeah. Apart from that, oh wait, no, there was one person. who said they didn't want a relationship with me, and it like crushed me. Because we were like texting and messaging for ages, for like months and months. And then they go, no, they have to focus on their work and not on me, and can't have a relationship. And yes, that time. I can't believe I forgot about that.
Were you completely blindsided?
Yeah, because if you're messaging someone every day, like multiple times a day and stuff, you think there's something there.
Oh yeah.
But then when we're in the same city, and then they're like, nah. And then I was thinking, well, why are they messaging me all the time? Yeah, no, that one actually. But that I wasn't in a relationship.
Yeah.
It was just communicating.
With texting relationships, it can be completely addicting, where it's like your safe space, and like, but it's also really detrimental sometimes because it's not real. You can have a complete separate life and no one know who you're texting. And
and it was like this thing I had in my mind, and I was like thinking, oh yeah, well, when we do get together, then it's going to be this whole thing because we know each other so well from the texting and voice messaging and everything. I love a good voice message.
Love a good voice message.
I do like 5-minute soliloquies on the phone all the time, and so it's just like I felt like there was something that when I asked my friend Matthew, he goes, you were thinking of the castle when you hadn't even bought the land yet. And I was like, Matthew. I was like, yeah, you're right. I was thinking ahead, thinking this was going to be something, and then I was let down. But that hurt. That really. And as a person in the public eyes, I'm not going to say who it was, but like I was like, so I was just like, but I was investing a lot, texting every day.
But, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably never did that type of situation again, right? Where you was all texting.
Yes. Well, now I'd never. Some people call it emotional masturbating or something, where you like if you meet somebody and then you're like, oh my god, okay, our kids would look like this, and we could live here, and I'd give up parts of my career for them, and like you think you've pictured this whole future,
and you're not even dating.
And you haven't even had a relationship yet.
Emotional masturbating. Yeah, that's what
I've heard it's called.
Oh, I'm going to use that all the time now.
I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be great. I was going to have this life with this person.
And he's like, Rebel, we haven't even like had sex. Like, I don't even see you. I won't take you out in public. You're wow. Okay, so Daddy Gang listening, remember, if you are like in the world of texting,
you have to meet the person. And that's why when I met my current girlfriend, Ramona, it started with texting and talking for 2 weeks before we met in person. But I was like, fuck this. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going to meet her because I'm not going to get into another situation of texting for 6 months.
Let's talk about your relationship, because that was my next question. Like, so how did you meet?
A mutual friend called Hugh set us up, who'd known me for like 8 years and her for like 5 years, but we'd never met, weirdly. And he was just like, I was having all these problems with guys, and he was like, maybe you should just date Ramona. And I was like, oh, who's this Ramona? And then he like introduced us, but we had this like immediate connection on like the voice texts. Like I heard her voice and I was like, oh yeah, that's sexy. But then I was like, okay, I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm going to go and meet her. And I flew from Australia just to meet her.
And to confirm, was this your first relationship with a woman?
Yes.
So were you surprised that you were like falling for a woman?
Well, there were signs when I look back at things. There was definitely signs. I thought I was straight-ish. Like I didn't think I was 100% straight, but I didn't know how to label that. And especially on the dating apps and stuff, like where they're like, oh, you have to tick what you are or something, and I didn't like that.
Right.
So like there were definitely signs, and I'd kissed a woman in a film, a lovely French actress, Charlotte Gainsbourg, who's so classy and French. I'd kissed her about 6 months earlier, and that was, I see it, that there's like an opening of, really, I've had a few friends who have kissed women in TV shows or movies and then kind of went into a same-sex relationship.
Because I'm interested to know, like, after that film moment where you were like, you just didn't do anything about it.
It just was like, oh, it wasn't such a big deal. I was like, oh, I just kissed a woman and it's not even that big of a deal.
Right.
Whereas I guess when I grew up in a very Christian environment, it would have been a huge deal in the high school to say you were also attracted to women or...
Totally.
So it was just a part of my personality I never quite explored.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, I think... having a few little things happen and then meeting Ramona, I was just open to it.
Yeah.
I was still a bit scared, like, because it was different to dating guys, and but then it was just like, oh, she was just so awesome, and we just had such a good deep connection, like right from the get-go, and so I was like, aw.
See, it all pays off.
And then it felt right.
So how did you navigate, because you're such a public figure, like how did you navigate coming out publicly?
Well, like it wasn't something we hid. Like I remember we went to the Vanity Fair Oscars party and stuff together, and it was like, it wasn't a big deal. I didn't think like in this day and age you have to like come out or anything. I didn't really.
You shouldn't have to.
No, and so it was not, we weren't hiding it, we were just slowly telling people and our families and stuff, and I wanted to make sure it was a really real thing before I told certain people. And then but then this journalist threatened to out us in Australia, and so I had to do an Instagram post to make it, because I didn't want him to, it's not his story to tell it, it's mine. And so I was like, well, screw you, I'm just going to put it on the internet then. Which was I was probably close to doing it anyway, but it just kind of sped it up. And I remember my mum had to go around to my grandparents' house in the middle of the night to tell them, so that they didn't find out on Instagram, because they would have felt out of the loop. And I got 2 grandparents in their 90s, and so that was pretty funny in hindsight.
So like Grandma and Grandpa, I promised you're in the loop, but the psycho reporter over here is about to drop a bombshell, so let me tell you first.
Yeah, so let me tell you, I'm dating a woman, and her name's Ramona. They love her now, like they like...
Yeah, I was going to ask, coming from like a, Christian family, like how did your parents and your family handle it?
My family was just so amazing. It was incredible. It was like, and I go, Mum, you remember Ramona who you've heard on the phone? She's like, yeah. I go, oh, I'm dating her. And she's like, oh, and Ramona's a woman? I'm like, yeah. And you're dating her? And I go, yeah. And she's like, oh, that's great, darling. Like literally not a second of... I don't know. You don't know sometimes. You can see your parents are cool with gay people and whatever, but you don't know until you actually tell them as the daughter, oh, I am now in a same-sex relationship. You don't know how they're going to react. But it was nothing. Oh my God, my family was so supportive. Ramona's family, they're a bit even more... They come from like Eastern European countries, so they're not as accepting, but hopefully it'll turn around. So, but my family was like, they were so awesome.
Do you have advice for maybe people that are not in the industry that are wanting to come out to their families and like don't know how they're going to react? But like,
well, first of all, like I was like a 42-year-old woman, and I'm very successful and a boss bitch in so many ways, and so it's hard. Like it's awkward, and you got to have these conversations, and not just once. Like often on multiple occasions. I first sat down my sisters, and I'm like, guys, I have something to tell you. Come in this bedroom now. And they come in, and because they come over for the Super Bowl, and then I was like, so you're meeting somebody tomorrow, Ramona, and I'm dating her, and blah, blah. I was like, but like, because they were the first people, family members I told, and God, it was awkward. Like, and luckily they just said, oh, that's great, like they didn't care. But you feel like it's such a big deal, and I don't know why. Because it's not like with straight people they have to talk about their sexuality or whatever, and I never, when I was dating guys, never had to have that conversation like, hey guys, I'm dating this guy, so it was just, I don't know, like I understand how hard it is for people, and especially if you come from a conservative family like I have, like how hard it is to do it. But I was met with nothing but love and positivity by it, so I was like, oh, and it was so nice. Like it was so nice. And I think the best thing is just to live your authentic life, and like, I do see people in the industry, hiding who they are in public and stuff, and it was like the moment I met Ramona and I knew it was a real thing, and we were slowly telling people, but yeah, that whole yeah, I just didn't want to hide it. I thought, oh God, it's 2022 now. Like, you can just be whoever.
When you look at this relationship with Ramona, like, how is this relationship to you, who you are in it, what it means to you, different from like all the past dating experiences, relationships that you've had?
It was from like dating all these dudes, and then I would always be like complaining, like, oh, well, that dude like is not romantic. And then Ramona, from our first ever Valentine's Day, I mean, she gave me this little bracelet that's got 2 hearts to signify her and my heart.
Very cute.
Little thing from Tiffany's. And then she made me like wait in one room while she decorated the whole house. And like she had a whole menu of activities for Valentine's Day. Like, I've never had that. Like a whole menu of like activities and things, and she'd brought all the decorations, and like it was the most romantic thing ever. And I was always saying with dudes, oh, they're not romantic. Like, I put in effort and try to do nice things, and they never do nice things. And then here was somebody that just like blew me away with how thoughtful and kind she was, and caring. And I was like, it was insane. It was like the best Valentine's Day I've ever had.
That's amazing. Were you in the process of having a baby before you met Ramona? And like, what was that conversation like to start a family together?
So I'd already been doing the fertility stuff, and I'd already had the surrogates, and so. But I didn't want to, because I'd had an experience with where it didn't work out, and we had a miscarriage with the first surrogate. And so with the second one, I wanted to wait till like the first trimester was over. But this was like literally a few months into dating Ramona, and I have to say, oh God, I'm having a baby. And I know this is something that you didn't know. And so if it's too much for you and you want to leave me, like, I totally understand. Like, I kind of said it with a sad face on, like, if you want to leave me, like, you can. And she was just so great about it and was like, oh my God, like, I adore you, and I'm going to adore your baby probably even more. And so she was so great. I wonder whether it was a dude, if they would have been that accepting of a child that wasn't their biological child. And I do think, God, maybe it was fate, and I was meant to meet her then. And then Ramona was right there at the birth of the baby. She wasn't originally supposed to. It was just going to be me in the room, and then we're like, oh, well, Ramona's here. Like, oh yeah, okay, come. And we watched the baby pop out together. Like,
how has motherhood changed you personally?
a lot. Like, it changes your life. But I feel like I was in such a place, like, ready, and I've been trying for a few years to have a baby, and so, like, she's just my little miracle, little Royce, and she's just so cute. But it's so hard, like, to all the mums out there watching, like, it is so hard. Yesterday, I don't think I put on clothes till 4 p.m. I was just in my nightgown, walking around with the baby. Like I get so feral on some days. I mean, obviously, I'm put together today because I'm come to talk to you. But I was like, it's really hard. Like, it's hard. I have to probably be more discerning about what jobs I take now. But I was so in a place, I was so ready and so stable, have such a good life that I'm ready to, like, give a lot to my child now. And it's such a blessing, but it's so hard.
Totally. How has your relationship between you and Ramona changed since having this child?
I think it's, like, only gotten stronger. We're, like, such a team, and, like, I think it's just made me and Ramona, like, an instant family. And but we'd been dating for, like, almost a year by the time Royce arrived.
Let's talk about your new dating app, Fluid.
Okay.
Why did you start this? What has your experience been with apps in the past? Tell me about it.
Well, like, I've had a bit of experience with dating apps because I was on Raya, but then I was like, well, what if there's somebody out there like me that doesn't quite have a label on their sexuality? Because it was weird when at one point I went on Raya and ticked the box for interested in women as well. It felt like, because you tick interested in men, interested in women, and I was like, it just felt weird to have to label myself or categorize myself. So I was like, well, what if there was a dating app that didn't have to do that? And then there's so many studies that, like, there was one study in 2020 with Gen Z saying that 48% of people in Gen Z identify as being sexually fluid. And I was like, okay, it's got to be it. I'm going to, like, create an app with my friends, call it Fluid, and it's where you don't have to categorize or describe either yourself or what you're interested in. The app just learns by how you vibe with people and what you like, the profiles you like and stuff, and it will learn kind of what your preferences are without you having to say, oh, I'm bisexual, I'm pansexual, I'm straight, I'm this. You don't have to say. It's just you're open to love, and you can get on there without any labels or judgment and find a match.
So when can we
Cutting edge, guys.
It's cutting edge.
Cutting edge, and you can download it Valentine's Day.
That's perfect.
Because it's the day of love.
It's the day of love.
Yeah, and normally I was the kind of person who was like so sad on Valentine's Day. I'm going, oh, I have no love. I buy myself flowers. I did that in high school once.
You did?
I bought myself with an anonymous card, and then I walked around all the other girls with my bunch of flowers going, oh, somebody's like really attracted to me. Like an idiot.
I love it.
But I guess, it's such an awesome place now, and so the creating Fluid was just like to create something that I didn't feel existed, and to help other people find love in however form that will be, which is awesome.
I have one more question.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I had Adam Devine on.
Oh, yeah, my work
week.
husband. Oh, last week?
Yes, last week. And so I asked him, I want you, if you can, to impersonate Rebel, and then I'm going to have her impersonate you.
Oh, that's so hard. I feel like she's just going to be like, I'm Adam. Just with like weird energy, just bouncing all over the place. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Hello. It's sort of British. Hello, it's me, Rebel Wilson. I'm the lead singer of the Beatles. I can't do it, Alex. I can't.
No, it's so good. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. I was trying to do it earlier, and I was like, that's why she's iconic. I can't do it.
Hello, I'm Rebel Wilson. I play bass in Oasis. And she's Australian. She's not even from England, but I don't know
I think you're
how to
fully
do
doing an English accent.
Because I can't do Australian.
He was struggling so hard. He's like, fuck, like, why can I not get this? I had to play
I'm really hard to impersonate.
So hard. Like,
I'm really hard.
No one can do
They tried to do me once on SNL, and they're like, nah. My voice is really hard to do.
Which is great. I mean, you're very unique. There you go. Do you think you could do an impersonation of Adam?
He's like, Adam just does all these faces like, I like that. Like, that's my impersonation of Adam. Like, what is it? And then he does these dance moves all the time. He does this a lot, and he does the man splits, which are like he's freakily flexible, and he does the splits. But his voice, I don't know. Hey guys, no. I sound like a South Park character. Hey guys.
It's hard.
Yeah, but he normally does these faces, and he does this a lot. Like that. He does that.
It's so accurate.
Yeah. But yeah, I call Adam my work husband because we work together on so many things, and like he's just the cutest.
So good. Rebel, thank you so much for coming.